Hey guys, putting together these breathing videos, had a lot of good response from that Instagram I posted 18.5, so a little over a week ago, when I talked about breathing patterns, warming your breath up, just like you would, with your glutes or hamstrings or whatever before big deadlift day, before metcons and conditioning work and even strength work. You need to warm up your breathing. You need to open your lungs and your diaphragm and your intercostals and all of those specific breathing muscles. So let's talk about that for a little bit. I'm not going to go too in depth. Definitely will give you a place to start though if you've never worked breath patterns before. Number one thing, right, to kick it off, nasal breathing. You are meant to breathe through your nose and talk through your mouth, right? And listen with your ears, obviously. You can't breathe with your ears, though. Nasal breathing is so important. There are so many athletes that I see, especially within the CrossFit space, that because it is so anaerobic based, where you end up just huffing and puffing through your mouth the entire time, and you never even access the instrument that is used for breathing, is your nose. So when you're talking about prepping your aerobic system, you got to start nasal breathing. So that's the number one place to start. In your next training session, just try to nasal breathe as much as you can, regardless of what you're doing. Now, there are more specific applications for nasal breathing, especially within longer aerobic pieces. But to really get a feel of it, just shut your mouth and go from there. That'll give you a big indicator of how sympathetic or parasympathetic that you truly are. If you can access your nose and you don't freak out when you shut your mouth, and you can stay nice and calm, you're much more of a relaxed person. You have more of a connection to your lungs and can open them up, and probably a little bit less nervous, a little bit lower anxiety type person. If you are a person that when you start moving and you try to breathe through your nose and it just goes to shit really fast, and say like you're jogging and you try to, and then you have to kind of like kick out air through your mouth because you feel like you're drowning. That's where I used to be with this. That just says you're a little bit more prone for anxiety, you're a little bit more sympathetic, you're a little bit more high rev, high stress, you kind of bottle things up a little bit more. So it's just going to tell you where you are to start. Now you can change all this pretty quickly just by closing your mouth and just trusting the process. Slow down the pace if you need to and access your breathing. It will be of great benefit, right? You might have to take a step back because it's going to slow your pace. Think of nasal breathing as a restrictor, right? You don't need that boost of gas on the fire until you need that boost of gas on a fire. If you nasal breathe through a metcon, especially like the longer ones, where you're not going to outrun that pace, you're going to find a much better connection to the movement, to a consistent pace, and it might slow you down a little bit, but it's like take 2 steps back to go 12 steps forward type thing. So start there, nasal breathing. At the same time, it's going to restrict airflow. You're going to get less air in through your nose, but it's going to create more nitric oxide circulating in your blood, which is going to have huge benefit for you as far as recovery and lung capacity and that type of thing. But it's also going to, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes with resisted breathing, because it restricts your airflow in. You have to expand your lungs harder. Your intercostals will work harder. Your diaphragm will work harder. Your lungs in general will become stronger. All the musculature around your respiratory system will become stronger. So if you can make your respiratory system stronger through the musculature that surrounds it, right? You can make those things stronger. You're obviously going to get better. And working nasal breathing is such low-hanging fruit. You can improve your work capacity and your aerobic system, which dictates how much volume you can handle, simply by working breath. And we're breathing all day anyway, right? So work nasal breathing. When you're just sitting there, shut your mouth, work breathing through your nose, okay? I can't stress that one enough. All right, let's talk about apnea training. The second place that I would start is going to be, or I would move to after nasal breathing, is going to be the apnea trainer. So there's a bunch of different training apps you can use. The one I like is Apnea Trainer. It's for free diving, right? So it's a lot of the same things that free divers use. before when they're prepping for those really deep dives, right? Apnea training is based on breath ratios, right? So it is a 1-4-2 split. These are ratios. So it's all based on your first number is your base number. So let's say it's an inhale, a hold with an exhale, right? So just stay with me on this. It sounds more confusing than it is. So you inhale, let's say for 5 seconds. Then you're going to hold for 5, 10, 15, 20. So 4 times that amount. So you're going to hold for 20 seconds. And then exhale for double the base, right? So exhale for 10 seconds. Once you get to the bottom of that, then you're back at the top of that cycle. 5 seconds in, 20-second hold, 10-second exhale, right? These are a little bit longer breath holds, and then they're longer exhales as well. So this is going to be really good for down regulating, right? So if you're looking to do some of this before workout, I would not really recommend this unless you really feel anxious. Then maybe you can do it a little bit, but the longer breath holds are really not designed for, I would not apply them for pre-workout CrossFit type stuff. That's what we'll talk about next. But this is like the first place to start is learning how to down regulate with it, not specifically up regulate. So you want to learn how to relax before you learn how to rev the engine, right? So start there. That's step number 2. So step number 1, nasal. Step number 2 is apnea, right? 1, 4, 2. And you can start as low as you want with that. All right. So after the apnea. So when you get better, when it gets really easy, if you're using the app, it'll give you some biofeedback. So if it's really easy, you click it's too easy and it'll shift it up 1 tick. And then if it's too hard, it'll shift it back. Or if it's fine, you just leave it where it's at. Funny thing about length of being able to tolerate more breath holds, longer ratios. It's going to be dependent on how recovered you are, and that's going to dictate your body's ability to buffer out the carbon dioxide, which is the waste product we produce while we're exercising. So oftentimes in CrossFit, the only reason you really need to breathe, because it's so anaerobic based sometimes, is just to get the CO2 out. It's not actually to take oxygen in. All right. So don't freak out if it varies day to day, especially when you're just starting this. All right. So that's apnea breathing, right? Apnea breathing. Remember, down regulate. If I was going to recommend applying it, I would say 5 minutes. Once you get into bed, go ahead and once you're ready to go to sleep, do about 5 cycles or 5 minutes of apnea based breathing. And I guarantee your sleep quality will improve drastically. Okay. All right. Next one's going to be cadence breath or pranayama breathing. So this is an old, when I say old, I mean like ancient breath practice from yoga. So again, it's ratio based, and it's all based off the first number in this sequence, right? So if we stick with 5 seconds, right? So it's an inhale for 5, a hold for 5, an exhale for 2, right? Or double. So inhale 5, hold 5, exhale for 10 seconds. And then hold at the bottom with no air for 5 seconds. So it's a 1-1-2-1 split, right? And again, it's all based on that base number. So as that base number, that first number goes up, when we take 5 seconds inhale to a 6 second inhale, then it's a 6-6-12-6, okay? Again, work with the app. That will guide you through it. It's really, really easy and really cool. So what that'll look like is if we stick with a 5 second inhale, so it's going to look like. And then we're back to the top again. Okay, so that's going to be a cadence breath, and the cadence breaths can vary, right? This is one that I would say apply once you get to the gym, do about 5 minutes of cadence breath, and that will help to kind of energize you, wake you up, get your lungs ready to roll. But we're not working those extended breath holds when we're doing pre-workout stuff like that. All right, so again, that is to energize you. That's to wake you up. And then the apnea breathing, the 1-4-2 with the longer breath holds, that's going to be to shut you down. Anytime you exhale for longer than 7 seconds, your body starts thinking it's sleepy time. So it'll start shutting down systems. So that's why those extended breath holds and extended exhales are really good for calming you down, like just chilling out your central nervous system. All right, I'm going to shut this one down, and then resisted breathing is what we're going to talk about next, and I'm actually going to go through some of the demos on the bike so you guys can see some of it. All right.